Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. And today's episode is One Piece East Blue Saga Warship Island Arc, Episode 58, Duel in the Ruins, Strained Zoro vs. Eric. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happened in the episode. So basically, in this episode, we pick up where the last one left off, with them having fallen, them being the crew, have fallen into the ruins and see a mural on the top of the building, the ceiling. And in this episode, Nami realizes that it's actually a map and that it shows the Lost Island that they're on currently, and then the migration of the dragons. And it leads them ultimately back in a circle to Warship Island Arc, where it shows the dragon nest being slightly east of Warship Island. And so they realize that they're going to have to head back. This is when Eric reveals himself as having been eavesdropping and basically is like, okay, well, now I know where all the Dragonite is, so I am going to kill you and also Ryuji. And so basically the crew makes their escape by Luffy running headfirst into the wall, and while where he ran into the wall doesn't break, it does open a pathway just like right next to him so that they're able to take the cart out of the area they've fallen down and make their way out of the place, and Zoro stays behind in order to hold off Eric, as his swords are a better matchup for a slashing power than either Sanji's kicks or Luffy's rubber, and therefore he's again stands behind, though Eric isn't really interested in fighting him. And the second roller coaster ride on this raft slash cart that Ryuji's on takes place, where they all gather on, and it first goes down vines until it reaches the... Wow, I'm having a hard time finding my thoughts. So it starts on vines, goes to stone, they go through the ruins. There's a dicey turn that they have to make to avoid falling off a cliff, but they luckily make it. And they manage to go all the way down into the sea, where the cart basically hits a rock and throws everybody but Ryuji and Luffy and Apis off. And they get ready to go. And that is when a bird comes to tell Apis that Zoro's having trouble. We then, of course, have, Zoro fighting Eric. Eric decides to cheat and throw sand in Zoro's eyes, which is why he has trouble. But he didn't need to worry about it because Luffy reaches all the way from the ship at the shore to grab Zoro and drag him all the way back to the ship. And the ship then sets sail. And we then see the ship coming out of the mirage, shocking the Marines that are there, and continuing on their journey towards Warship Island. Eric returns to the Marine ship after the fact a little bit, and orders them, of course, to chase Luffy. However, as the Going Merry is heading towards Warship Island, Nelson's giant ship stops them, and then all of the Marine ships from his fleet kind of fan out and have steel or iron, some sort of giant metal chains between them, which is effectively blocking in the Going Merry so that they can't get to Warship Island. And that is where we leave this episode. So now that we've been reminded about what happened, we'll now rank the episode, first on our mostly objective ranking list using set values to determine the score, followed by the personal ranking list, which essentially uses entertainment value to determine the score. So, single arc main character growth. We have Eric revealing a new attack, which is the Kamakama Wind Slash, which he uses against Zoro, who blocks it with his swords. We then have a resolved battle between Eric and Zoro. Obviously, they fight for a majority of this episode, but it is cut short first by Eric's cheating, and then by Luffy grabbing Zoro away from the battle. Either way, that's done, so those are both worth 2 points. Worth 3 points is the impactful slash memorable moment line, etc. And as I said 2 episodes ago, The raft cart rides are pretty epic. They are fun to watch. They are entertaining. And this is 2 of 2, and I do think that this one is better because it goes from the like cart balancing on vines down into the actual ruins, and then there's the dicey almost going off a cliff, but then turning just in time, and then the ending where everybody ends up in the water. I think that's fun, and I think it is worth 3 points, so this is 2 of 2. And then we have the world building aspect, and I wasn't certain whether I should put this as world building or as a character growth for Nelson. However, I feel like it's the entire fleet that is doing this crane wing formation, and most likely because the Marines are a organization of this world, their standard formations and tactics are probably universal for most of the Marines, if not all of them, and in their training they probably learn about these things. So ultimately I decided to put it under world building and give it 4 points for their crane wing formation, which is of course all of the ships coming out with the iron bars between them to block in the crew. And that's it for the positive points, but we did have some negative points. Obviously, we took -2 points for Eric cheating by throwing sand in Zoro's eyes during their fight. I mean, cheating's wrong no matter what, so obviously -2 points. Then we have -4 points for there being no main plot significance because, again, this is a filler arc, meaning that none of these actually have anything to do with the main plot of the show slash manga. So once all of these points are considered, it is a 5 out of 10 episode. And that brings the arc rankings so far in our mostly objective ranking to in first, The Holy Beast, Abbas's Secret, and The Legendary Island. Foreboding of a New Adventure, The Puzzling Girl Abbas. Eric's Raid, Great Escape from Gunkin Island. This episode came in fourth, Duel in the Ruins, Strained Zoro versus Eric, and then in fifth we have Lone Island, In a Distant Sea, The Legendary Lost Island. Now my personal ranking, this is the highest ranking in this arc so far, and I really enjoyed this episode for several reasons. First off, we have the fight, and action is always entertaining and engaging on the screen. And I did find it kind of funny how like Zoro's trying to hold Eric back. Eric keeps trying to escape him because he doesn't want to fight him. He just wants to get to the dragon, to Ryu. And I do find it funny they have this whole like little bit of a chase where Eric gets by Zoro. Zoro has to chase him down the roots, and then, you know, the throwing sand in the eye. I found the fight entertaining and interesting. Obviously, the sliding down, that little bit of a roller coaster ride from the top of the mountain of this island all the way down back to the shore where their ship is. Epic, entertaining, a little bit tense at times when they had, you know, issues with potentially running into things, worrying that like the cart won't make it because they're going a lot faster this time. A whole bunch of things, but honestly, if there was ever like a One Piece themed theme park, like amusement park, I think this, if you combine this ride and the last one, I think that would make an epic roller coaster ride. I think it's awesome. There's also the Luffy grabbing Zoro moment, and Zoro just kind of standing there like panicking as he's grabbed, going like this is starting to look like a familiar pattern, and then he's like dragged all the way down the island, landing on the ship, and we don't see it, but we hear it slamming into it pretty hard. So that was also very amusing. I also think that the marine ships, like their formation with the bars and everything, it does look epic. Like it looks like a really massive, effective formation, and they are so outnumbered. They're trapped. It makes for a good cliffhanger and a tense, you know, like if this was airing for new and it wasn't a rewatch. Okay, that did not make grammatical sense, but if it was airing for the first time and this was my first time watching it, not a rewatch, it would leave me wanting to go back or come back and watch the next episode. So I do think that and just like on the screen with the way that it was drawn, how it like looks like one ship at first and then they just fan out from behind the big ship with all these things. Like, I think it's a really well coordinated scene. The only real flaw I found with this episode was the fact that they made it to Lost Island, and then the mural shows them that they basically were already where they needed to be, so it basically invalidates the entire journey that they've gone on, and it's like wasted time, wasted effort. But even that, like, it's not something I'm super upset about because we did get very good moments because they went on this, you know, unnecessary little side quest, but I just I don't like that like it invalidated the entire journey, finding out that they just basically have to go back to where they started from. And they've put themselves at so much danger and risk only to have to again go back. And then because they're backtracking, those who are chasing them are now in their way. And knowing the future as I do, I just feel like it is very unfortunate um, that that they're getting trapped at this point. And so I decided to give it a 9 out of 10. Because other than that fact, nothing about it was bad. It was a really good episode. And so Duel in the Ruins, Strained, Zoro versus Eric is in first, followed by Eric's Raid, Great Escape from Gunkin Island, The Holy Beast, Apis' Secret, and the Legendary Island, Foreboding of a New Adventure, The Puzzling Girl Apis, and then in fifth place we have Lone Island in a Distant Sea, The Legendary Lost Island. Which brings us to the saga ranking so far. On our mostly objective ranking, we have Romance Dawn arc in first with 86.67%, Arlong Park arc with 76.67%, Logtown arc 76.67% as well, and those are ranked in episode order, or saga order, no, arc order, because of course, when on the mostly objective lists, there are the same scores, they rank in the order they air in. Then we have Orangetown arc at 76%, Brady arc 68.33%, Syrup Village arc at 64%, and then the Buggy Side Story arc with 55% in 7th. And Warship Island arc so far has 32 out of a possible 80. On the personal ranking side, Buggy Side Story arc is in first with 90%, followed by Arlong Park arc at 76, Orangetown arc at 74%, Romance Dawn arc at 66.67%, Logtown arc at 61.67%, Beretti arc with 52.5%, and Syrup Village arc in last place with 49%. Warship Island arc so far has a score of 40 out of 80. Bringing us now to the final segment, which is our series ranking so far. And this is where we're going to be ranking each of the sagas against each other. East Blue Saga so far, 41 out of 80 on the mostly objective, and then on the personal, 34 out of 80. But with that, we've now rewatched and ranked One Piece, East Blue Saga, Warship Island Arc, Episode 58, Duel in the Ruins, Strained, Zaro vs. Eric. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.